Is America heading towards disaster, or are we experiencing birthing pains that may yield to something greater? Let's talk about it. Just because you lost pieces doesn't mean you're upset about the game. What you're happy about is if you win, right? So again, it's painting this picture that just because bad things are happening doesn't mean your viewpoint should be off of what you're heading towards. Hello everyone, and welcome to another one of my videos. I apologize for being off for a week, skipping a video there, but I just had a lot going on, and I honestly tried my best to make a video, but so many things came onto my plate to where, fortunately, I just had to postpone making this video. But that being said, we're making it now, we're here, so I thank everyone for tuning in and bearing with me, but let's dive into it, okay? So that being said, as you can maybe hint from the intro, I wanted to talk about something very specific here. While I didn't word it in the intro, I worded the intro the way I did for a specific reason with how it paints into what I'm about to talk about. But for this week, there's one specific word that I wanted to bring across you guys in conversation, and that word is the word patience. Now, why do I want to talk about patience? Well, the reason I want to talk about patience is because in what ways I keep up with politics and see people have political conversations, see people react to things going on in the world, it's become apparent that obviously everyone sees the circumstance of things we're going through, right? To get down right straight to it, you have business going on with Iran, you have our gas prices that are spiking way up, and it seems as if a lot of people are either continuing to batter the president that's in office, being Donald J. Trump. You have a lot of people using this and saying, oh yeah, look, this is the terrible president you guys voted in. Or you even have people on the other side saying, oh, well, I don't regret necessarily voting for Trump, but at the same time, I do regret that he was the only candidate on our side if they choose to stay on a certain side. But point being, you have opinions on both sides, or on varying sides rather, showing discomfort or distaste in what's going on. And by no means am I going to try and water down the reality of that gas prices are high, right? No one likes paying high gas prices. No one likes the economy going up. No one likes inflation. No one likes these things, right? And while I'm not going to sit here and try to justify what's going on, because by all means, I don't like paying high gas prices either. On the contrary, what I am going to talk about is the aspect, or rather the virtue, of patience. And why I bring that out is because people seem to forget that sometimes things take a while, and that, I know this is going to sound very cliche until I bring out the explanation, but people forget sometimes that you have a setback before you have a step forward, and that in order to see things come to where you want them, you have to have patience. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, for one, there's the common analogy of the chess game, right? Whether you're playing sports, whether you're operating in a business, a lot of people metaphorically speak about playing chess, right? They even use the chess metaphor when they're talking about interacting with people socially. Oh, I'm going to play chess games. I'm going to try to work things out for my favor. It's a common used metaphor. And when we come to what is the game of chess, for those who are unaware of how chess works, chess, yes, is a very much strategic game. But for those who are aware of how chess works, by the time you have a winner in the game of chess, do you normally have all the pieces on your board? No. And as a matter of fact, if you get down to the science of chess, you'll see that some of the best strategies that are out there to help someone win involve making sacrifices. You even hear people, when they talk in means of war, but use chess as a metaphor, they say sometimes you have to sacrifice a pawn in order to win, or a few pawns, they may say. But that being the case, the point I'm bringing out is why I'm relating this to patience is because it seems as if people have gotten so used to what a lot of people call a microwave society, to where they think just because they see one wrong thing going on means all of a sudden America is heading towards disaster. And again, I'm not downplaying the high price in gases that we have, but on the contrary, what I'm saying is hold out and have patience. Wait and see if something good comes from this. Now, why do I bring this out? Well, as everyone knows, we have these high gas prices going on. We have all this rumors of war and all these ordeals going on with Iran and so forth. And a lot of people say, oh, well, we're starting unnecessary wars. Oh, look how it's affecting gas prices. Look how it's affecting the economy and so forth. But then again, if I may very briefly reference a previous video, they acknowledge the bad, but they don't acknowledge the good, right? Why is it good to acknowledge the good? Well, for one, it helps you to balance out whether or not something is for the overall good or not. And with that being said, if you can see something is for the overall good, then it, for one, helps you to have patience so that you can endure through something that may not necessarily be desirable, but may still yield you to something that you actually do want. So where am I going with this? Getting back to the conversation with Iran and so forth, you have a lot of people that don't like how we're interfering with Iran. You have a lot of people that think we shouldn't involve ourselves with, other nations. And again, it's like they fail to acknowledge the good that's happening, right? For one, you see, and I know that some time has passed since this happened, but you see the effect of our involvement with Iran and with other nations, how the citizens themselves are thanking Donald Trump for things that he's done, for giving them the freedom and liberty from the oppression and from the dictatorships, right? And this isn't just with Iran, you see it with Nigeria and so forth. You see to where, because America is doing things for other people, you see that these people are celebrating. And yes, you have people that try to speak up for them who are against Donald Trump and saying, oh, well, these people are oppressed. When the citizens or the natives from that country or region speak up for themselves, they say, no, we're naming cities and such after these people. We're celebrating the things that these people have done because it's a very good thing. Now, why is this a good thing? Yes, this has nothing to do with America, right? But needless to say, just because it has nothing to do with us specifically doesn't mean that it's not good. And I don't have to get into too specific of an example, but we know of many stories. I'll go ahead and give one. Let's say you had a child that was out playing in the street and you seen a car driving by, and in order to save that child, you jumped out in front of that child, threw the child out the way, and you ended up getting bumped by the car, and now you have a limp in your leg because you injured your knee. And now, even though the child is saved, you are injured. In that scenario, would you yourself regret stepping in the way of that child because you got injured? No, because yourself is unimportant at that moment. What was more important to you was the life of that child, or vice versa. If you want to go a different route, for the men watching this, let's say you were walking by somewhere and you seen a woman getting snatched up, getting dragged into some alley by one person, or trying to get stuffed rather into a car, and it's very evident of why trying to snatch this woman up, and you come in basically and save the day. You wrestle her out of the hands of whatever man or person is trying to abduct her, and you free her from what could potentially be abduction into trafficking. You free her from that, but in the essence of doing that, and from the engagement of the fight you got involved in, you now get injured again. Maybe they had some kind of weapon like a knife or something. You get a scratch, you get a cut, now you need stitches, or maybe even a worse injury. But nevertheless, you're fine. You're not, gravely injured, but you're still injured. Would you regret your decisions for helping that woman because you got injured, or had to get stitches, or had to get surgery for whatever kind of injury you got in? Would you regret your decisions? No, because what would be more painful to you is knowing that a woman right in front of your eyes, nonetheless, got abducted and now is having who knows what done to her because she got abducted. And so the reason I'm pointing this out is because in these situations where we show no regret for the actions we've made, or rather the decisions we've made, we still have negative aspects of it, right? We still have something bad that happened, referring back to chess. Just because you lost pieces doesn't mean you're upset about the game. What you're happy about is if you win, right? So again, it's painting this picture that just because bad things are happening doesn't mean your viewpoint should be off of what you're heading towards. Now, I know those were more so of results that already happened, but again, more so the direction I want to go to is in the realm of having patience. To give other examples, the reason why I'm getting into this is because, again, we've seen what we could do with other nations, right? We see that what we're doing as a nation for other nations is bringing forth good results. And again, the reason I brought those examples forth is because people may say, oh, but that has nothing to do with us. Well, neither does the child, neither does the woman. But if someone gave that excuse, you would call them a heartless excuse of a human being, wouldn't you? Yet you have people who are being executed You have people who are being shoved off of balconies because of their sexual orientation. You have women who are being oppressed because of their gender, because of what faith or what customs a nation has. And America steps in and frees and brings liberty somewhat closer to what we have. And people don't see the benefit of it because we can't extend our compassion or our empathy to someone other than ourselves. But that's a story for a different day. Needless to say, that my main point I'm bringing out is you see the effects, right? So these are now effects of what's going on. But what about effects for later on? Again, people are talking about the war and so forth of going on with Iran. People are talking about the negative aspects coming from it and so forth. But you hear about it, but not as much, I would argue, of the good effects, right? But at the very least, some people, I won't say not as much, I'll say some people are ignoring the good aspects, such in this case that with what's going on between America and Iran and maybe other nations, you can see a reestablishment of America as the nation power that it is, talking globally, right? You can see the restoration of America's resources, mainly being oil, where America is once again becoming a primary vendor for oil, that where it looked like there was a scare to where nations would start looking elsewhere and we would start getting less and less consumers trading with us for oil. We now can see the reverse of that because of what decisions are being made. And yes, people may complain, but yes, the involvement with Iran, the quote unquote war, so forth, is bringing up these increases in prices. Now we're paying $4.50, a gallon of gas and all this stuff. Yes, okay. But who's to say, for one, that this is going to last? What if this is a momentary thing that happens now? But if things continue to go forward, is what I'm saying, is to where maybe the gas prices could come back down. What happens if America becomes even more of a dominant vendor for oil? So these are the kind of concepts I'm bringing forward. So it's very important when you're looking into politics to not just look at the symptoms that are going on, but to understand, or rather try to see the overall viewpoint and vision, right? Because again, referring back to the chess game, if you only see the pawn being taken, you think you're going to lose, unless you're the one strategically planning the entire thing. And you see that even though it's unfortunate to have this happen, this is what's progressing the current state of your side towards victory. So while it's unfortunate to go through bad things, while no one again wants to have gas prices keep going up and up, don't be so impatient to think that this means all is lost. Again, have patience, because you don't know where things are going to go. And then I didn't even cover the fact that with the involvement of America with what we're doing with Iran, I do want to bring this picture up, which is somewhat getting old news now, but where there was claims or accusation of Iran having nuclear weapons being built and them denying it because of what America's been doing, because of the involvement and so forth, with all we've been doing across border. Evidence has came out due to our involvement that has revealed, or rather I'll say exposed, that Iran was doing some activity that led to them getting more uranium. And it wasn't just that they were getting this mineral, if you want to call it that, they were getting uranium to the grade that is meant for weapons or nuclear warfare. So while they claimed they weren't preparing nuclear weapons because, again, of what America is doing, it showed that they were making nuclear weapons. So with that being said, let's say America took the back burner. Let's say we did nothing and we didn't have any kind of reinforcement of America being a global national superpower, and things just stayed where they were and Iran kept secretly building these nuclear weapons. What's to say with how they're taking over other nations? And you don't have to be, a deep diver to see this stuff. You can see it all over with how they slowly, one by one, and I'm not saying it's all Iranian people, but you can see the people that do it. You can see how they're infiltrating. You can see how they come in with hostile motives. You can see how they come in with agendas to take over. And you can see that Iran wants to take over other places. You can see it here in our nation. And it's not necessarily to say that all people who are Iranian are bad, but needless to say, just because not all are bad doesn't mean there's not the select few that are trying to do this. The point I'm making is you can see that in a global sense, whether it's our nation, other nations, and their home nation, that there is hostility Iran has towards other nations. And with the hostility that they have, it now has been exposed, showing with the picture here, that they were secretly planning and working towards getting nuclear weapons. So if America didn't step up and put their foot down and show that, reinforce their sense of being a strength globally as a nation, right? What would have happened? Would Iran try to lead to some kind of threat to oppress other nations with the threat of nuclear weapons? I don't know. We don't know. That's just hypotheticals. But again, I'm opening our thoughts to see, well, maybe this stuff is for a reason. Rather than being blindlessly hopeful, I'm saying you can see effects that what's going on right now, you can see benefits that are coming down the road. You can see, talking long vision range, if I can get this algrammatically correct, in regards to having patience to see how things are going to turn out, you can see that with the steps and the things Donald Trump is doing, the steps we are taking as a nation, as America, that just because it's having some negative side effects, such as gas prices going up, that you have preventions like this. So don't be afraid for a trade-off, especially when it's not the trade-off of the war actually starting and millions of people like that dying. You know, it's not going into a World War III, at least not at this point in time. Whether or not something like that happens is to be unknown. But again, you can see things happening, right? So I want to get us in this mindset. Have patience, have patience, have patience. Acknowledge what's going on, yes. Be able to see whether or not something is good or bad, yes. But don't be so impatient to think that just because something bad happens, you need to now change course, right? Another example I could give for this, I briefly explained it before, or rather talked about it before, is with running a business, right? When you have a business that you're trying to run, you don't just change plans because something bad happened. If you make a bad investment, you don't just throw the business away. You learn from it and you keep going, and you see how this bad experience can give you education and can keep you moving forward. And while that's not necessarily talking about patience for something that is working good, it's talking about the stability to not overreact to something that just because one bad thing happened, you get off track. But again, more so talking with the patience. With the examples I gave with Iran, you can see to where even though it looks like bad things are going on, you can see there's some kind of strategy that's happening in the background. You can see where benefits are still coming through. Even though, yes, some bad things are coming through, good things are coming through as well. So to go along with this, I wanted to bring a quick scripture, as I often do for you guys, that kind of paints this picture, right? So let me take this picture where I give you this scripture here. This scripture comes out of the book of John. It is chapter 16 and verse 22. This verse, I'll read it for you here. It says, when a woman gives birth, she has distress because her time has come. So this is talking about a woman being pregnant, right? And then obviously giving birth. When a woman gives birth, she has distress because her time has come. However, but when her child is born, she no longer remembers the suffering because of her joy that a human being has been born into the world. So where am I going with this? Well, for one, even the Bible acknowledges, and I'm not going to get too much into the other examples of this verse because oftentimes you get too direct with this. This talks about the end times. And if you keep reading past this verse into the next verse, you'll see a lot of times, if not every time, this analogy or metaphor is used in the Bible. It's to prescribe the end times. But the reason it gives it to prescribe the end times is because it portrays the picture that before something good happens, before the coming back of Jesus happens, or before the joy comes, guess what? There's a time of suffering. And this is why I wanted to bring this scripture out, because it's scriptural evidence, if you want to come from a scriptural side as well, that some of the greatest things that happen after first some pains happen that are worse than if you did nothing. And I don't have the scriptures up on the screen for you to pull it out, but if you want to continue to go down the scriptural path, you can even look at the book of Exodus when the Israelites went to the promised land. If they did nothing, they would have stayed in Egypt. They would have been in the oppression that they were in, but they would have had the food they liked. They would have had the comfort that they liked, and so forth. Yet when they were delivered from Egypt to go to the promised land, if you read through it, you'll see that they complained all the time because they had to keep eating the same food, which was supernatural food. May I remind you, they complained because they didn't have their same comforts that they had when they were in Egypt. Yet in Egypt, they were being beaten, they were being treated as slaves, they were being abused, but they were complaining because they lost their comfort, not seeing that this slight discomfort was giving them something greater. So then, even though I didn't have that scripture up there, that's 2 scripture references portraying that before a good thing happens, sometimes you have to step through bad. And that's why I gave the introduction to this video that I did, because I want us to contemplate, as a nation, are we going or heading towards destruction? Or rather, are we experiencing birthing pains that may bring something good about? Because remember, just because you're going through something bad doesn't necessarily mean you're going down the drain. Again, business decisions, investments, chess lost pieces, things happen. But just because something bad happens doesn't mean that failure is imminent. Sometimes the loss of a piece or the evidence of something bad happens, in the example with this scripture, isn't to say a child might come. No, birthing pains happen when a child is coming, right? Growing pains when you're a child. When you have growing pains, it doesn't mean you might grow. It means you are growing. So do we have the patience to sit out as a nation to see what's going to happen with our nation? Or are we going to be impatient and complain over every little bad thing that happens? And I know this goes very well with the last video I made, and I may bring up a tag or video picture, however I want to do it again for you this time, referencing my last video, because I believe it was my last video I talked about that. Do we have more complaints or thanks about our nation, right? But again, it's this poisonous mentality that if all you have are complaints, not only do you become hostile, not only do you become an enemy against the nation because you grow to hate the nation, but you also become disconnected from what is the growth of the nation because you lost out on the vision. And it's not that you've grown ignorant of what's going on, it's that you become impatient to sit and wait to see what happens. Your motives, your thoughts, your feelings can all be motivated by the little things that's going on. But when is a person more strongest? It's when they react less to the weaker things going on, right? That's true strength. Strong patience, or rather rich patience, is when you can endure through things, even though it's not looking like what you want it to look like, you can still endure. And while I'm not trying to preach some kind of preachy up message about patience, I'm trying to stress the importance for us as a nation to understand that just because the nation isn't looking like it's going in the direction we want it to go, again, doesn't mean we need to turn tail and run, or worse, turn against our nation. We should, for one, always be in alliance with our nation, but again, coming back to being critical thinking people, we need to be able to analyze and see the long-term goal. Are we still heading towards the mark we want to head towards? But in order to even contemplate that, you have to have the patience to endure with what we're going through. So with that being said, I'll end this video here, and I just want to emphasize the point, rather, of patience. Do we have the patience, right? Do we have the patience? Again, hold on to that. Don't overreact to everything that's going on. And again, I'm not downplaying. I'm just saying, don't be so easily discouraged, but rather have the patience to see whether or not we're heading towards something greater that maybe we may not understand yet. But I'm not going to try to have too many closings here. So I thank everyone for tuning in. Thank everyone for following, watching my videos. But that'll be it for this one. I'll catch you next time. Love you. God bless. Remember, be patient.